here from Vegas. Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Las Vegas. I'm Marcel Sutcliffe in the booth with Gabe Carlton Barnes, and we have hit the final round of Swiss here, Gabe. It has been a long road for these players, and we have Luis Scott Vargas at 12-2 playing against Alex Bianchi at 12-2 as well. Normally we would have a win-in match here, a clean win-in.
Right.
In the feature match area, it's a little bit different here, though. Explain to us what the situation is.
Well, this is a win and hope situation. So
Okay.
whoever loses here is going to be X and 3. They're out of contention for the top 8. Whoever wins is going to have 39 points. Unfortunately, there are going to be about a dozen players with 39 points and 4 players with 37. So 4 out of those dozen players are going to make the top 8, and they just have to hope their tiebreakers hold up after this round.
Okay, so this is a situation where the winner of the match is not guaranteed to make the top 8, but has a chance. They're going to be in that scrum of players with an X and 2 record. In this case, it's going to be 13-2.
Yep.
And they're going to have a chance for top 8 based on tiebreakers. Now, right now, taking a look at the players here, Luis Scott Vargas is in kind of the middle of the pack as far as tiebreakers, maybe the middle bottom part of the pack. Where is
Alex
Bianchi?
Bianchi's lower. That's
actually
the
bottom.
Yeah,
He's actually got the worst breakers in the pod. Now, one thing to keep in mind here, though, is that the tiebreakers are more volatile than they normally would be, because in such a big tournament, what we actually do is when we cut to day 2, the tiebreakers from day 1 go away.
Right.
Those are no longer counted. Normally they would, but in a huge GP like this, they combine and they go away, so they can be even more volatile. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen no matter who wins here, but we're going to find out. And here's Luis Scott Vargas going off. So he has built a really spectacular tokens deck. It's green-white. You can see he started off with a Flare Husk that got in for a damage. He followed that up with Raise the Alarm and now Scatter the Seeds as well. And he has just flooded this board with now 6 1/1 creatures, and that Gust Skimmer doesn't look very good here.
Doesn't. And the only 2 toughness creature Alex Bianchi had, which is the way you want to slow down an assault like this from 1/1s, got taken out by a Sunlance. So
yeah,
Alex
Vigian Guildmage was not long.
Right. And you can see it in a rest in Alex's hand. He can't cast it anyway, but if he could, it wouldn't be a big deal because Luis just has a bunch of interchangeable creatures.
That's right.
So something to look for here for Luis, because of the short day tiebreakers that we talked about being really volatile.
Oh, this is
Raise
just
the
a
alarm.
blowout here.
More tokens from Luis.
Yeah, he's going to block one of them on the Gust Skimmer here. Go ahead. You were saying.
And so he takes no damage and even increases his token count. So one thing that will really benefit Luis, the first tiebreaker is your opponent's match win percentage.
Wow, and that's actually game. You didn't even get to explain the tiebreakers. Luis Scott Vargas picks up the first game in quick fashion over Alex Bianchi here. He doesn't look too phased by it. He knew he didn't have a great draw, and Luis did, so that was fast. Wow.
Yeah, Luis's deck really incredible.
Now, I want to introduce you on this back table. We've got a bit of a situation here on our hands, GCB.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Lewis, 13-0, coming into the last round. Now, he picked up a loss. It's about time, right? I mean, the guy hadn't won a loss all weekend. It happens. He picked up a loss. You'd think, well, no problem. He can draw in the last round. He can't. He's actually been pared down. You look at the records of our 2 players here, 13-1 playing 12-2, and it's Noah Sandler. Noah is a popular streamer of Magic Online, and I can tell you, this guy is an excellent limited player, top tier, really, one of the better players around.
I've played with Noah Sandler, yeah, and you might know him from his from seeing on Magic Online. He's Nova Sandler.
He is
right?
Nova Sandler, yeah. And like we said, he's also got a stream. I've had him on the podcast before. He brought a lot of insightful stuff to the listeners. This guy knows limited Magic better than almost anybody.
Long time.
Yeah, he knows all the sets. 20 years he's been playing.
Yeah.
So not an easy matchup here for Aaron. You know, not taking anything away from Aaron. Aaron's also, he's got 2 GP top 8s over the course of the last 2 years, and he plays in Madison. If you play in Madison and you can hang with those guys, you can hang with anybody. So we've got a true slugfest here, and as you can see, it's Primeval Titan facing down Ant Queen here.
And you could see a situation, too, where Noah wins this, and Aaron and Noah are both in the tiebreaker scrum because they would both then be 13-2. Noah with great tiebreakers coming into the round, but who knows, they could change.
So does that mean that if Aaron wins this, he effectively, so that would put Noah in that scrum out. He would be out of that scrum, excuse me.
Noah would remain in the scrum, but his tiebreakers would be really good. Aaron, if he wins, is automatically in. He would be the first seed.
Okay.
And Aaron, if he loses, still has a chance, but it's no longer guaranteed.
Yeah, now he's got to fight.
Where he was 13-0, you imagine, like, how can you not make top 8?
Yeah, Randy kind of saw this coming. He started to bring it up in the booth a round or two ago, and I was just like, I can't even go down that road. The guy's 13-0 and has had such a great weekend, and a lot of things have to go wrong for him to not make the top 8. And we found ourselves here now, so obviously it is time to recognize what's happening here. But Lewis can absolutely pick up this win, and in fact, he's off to a really nice start here. Gnarlid Pack with kicker, Primeval Titan hitting the red zone. Kind of making a mockery of the ants that the Ant Queen can make there, and even a Matka Riders, which looks like it's sitting at 4-4 here.
Yeah, and we watched Aaron draft.
Excuse me, 5-5. It's the full amount.
Yes. An Agony Warp and a Dismember team up to take down Primeval Titan.
Yeah, so Noah knows that he doesn't want to 2-for-1 himself to get rid of one creature on the other side, but he also knows he just cannot let Aaron Lewis keep whacking him with that Primeval Titan and generating that advantage. So he's going to do what he has to do to take it down and to use up 2 of his premium removal spells on it.
And Noah, still at 10 life and with an Ant Queen, that Ant Queen can now hold off all the green creatures from Aaron.
Look at this turn. Okay, well, you know what? It actually ended up being not that great of a turn. He played a huge
Everflowing Chalice.
Everflowing Chalice, thanks GCB, and also the Nest Invader there.
But we watched Aaron Lewis draft, and we know what's in his deck. He has a tremendous deck.
The top end on his deck is absurd. I think that's a fair word to use here.
Yeah, he has a Savage Twister.
Yes.
And he has 2 more X spells. Do you remember what they are?
Yeah. He's got Banefire
and Apocalypse Hydra. So Banefire right here, he has enough mana now. He can just Banefire Noah Sandler out. And Noah probably doesn't know that he has a Banefire. So he's going to set up his defenses with the Ant Queen. What he doesn't realize is every turn, Aaron has a chance to just pull I win off the top of the deck. The mana advantage generated by Primeval Titan is just wild. Also meaning there's not a lot of lands left in Aaron's deck.
That's right. He has a higher likelihood of drawing a spell each turn thanks to that Titan clearing out even more lands. Every little bit helps, as you know. All right, well, why don't we jump back over to Luis Scott Vargas versus Alex Bianchi, because that one might be over quickly, and I don't want to miss it if it does end here. So they're underway again. So Luis picks up the first game in really impressive fashion. I mean, he rocked that game. And Alex just didn't really put up much of a fight. He didn't have the tools he needed to get through.
Right. Something to look for here is Luis. He needs his tiebreakers to go well, but the second tiebreaker may come into play here. And the second tiebreaker is game win percentage. So for Luis, a 2-0 is actually better than a 2-1. It always is, but usually that tiebreaker doesn't come into effect. It might here. So it's a big deal if Luis can get this second game as well.
So Tukatung Thalit is the start off for Luis Scott Vargas. Alex Bianchi, however, has a Rune Servitor. That's a 2-2. And, of course, the Sunspear Shikari as well, another 2-2. So this is a little more what Alex had drawn up, from game 1, where he can actually deal with the 1-1s that Luis Scott Vargas is able to put out.
Right, exactly. These are the cards he needed. And it's possible some of these were even in his sideboard and came in.
Just random Rune Servitors and stuff like, hey,
I just need to start
in there.
Blocking these soldiers right away.
Yeah, that is possible. Though I do see that Alex looks like he's the artifacts deck, so he's probably running about as many.
He does have 2 Rune Servitors in his main deck.
In his main, yeah. And you know what? That card's pretty mediocre, right? It's a creature, it's an artifact, you do what you got to do. But against Luis, it's actually pretty decent. You want to see as many of those as you can.
Yep.
And Alex Bianchi is going to attack for 4. Luis hasn't done anything yet. Alex is going to assume that Luis has at least a Raise the Alarm on end step here.
He doesn't.
But he doesn't have it.
However, this is 5. Now he has to start thinking about other convoke creatures, and it does look like Luis has more than one Scatter the Seeds.
Scatter the Seeds, okay.
He has at least another one in his hand as well, so Luis suddenly going to start flooding the board.
And one of them gets immediately repealed.
Yep. So repeal, a great little card. You can repeal a token, puts it back into the hand, but once tokens leave play, of course, they get exiled, and you still get to draw that card. So it doesn't completely counter the Scatter the Seeds, but it does beneficially deal with part of it. Now Alex Bianchi has to decide. Do I start attacking into these tokens? Do I try to hold back and go defensive? He draws third land finally.
Is it a Darksteel Citadel?
He's a Darksteel Citadel. Doesn't have a lot of effects right now that take advantage of the artifactness of the Citadel, but certainly it's nice to know Court Homunculus is going to remain 2-2, even if that servitor dies. So I think it's clever not to play that land here, so that Luis is tempted to double block the servitor and shrink the Homunculus.
I like that.
Yep.
That's a subtle play there. Luis doesn't fall for it, though. He's not biting, but, you know, by not biting, he's also taking a big hit of damage here, down to 8. He just took 6.
Yeah.
And there's a Blinding Soul Eater, which is the follow-up play as well.
Yeah. The reason Luis does this is because those creatures essentially act as mana. The way he's going to catch up in this game is by using these to convoke, putting out a bunch of big creatures that can start blocking those 2 2s.
And look, he's piecing together how much mana he can make with the help of these creatures right here. He's going to have to leave 1 planes up. No, he can do it however he wants. There's Raise the Alarm. So that's stage 1.
Yep. Now he's going to convoke with these 5 to make 3 tokens.
And then can he actually convoke after that to make the phalanx as
It
well?
looks like that is not what he's going to do, though. Oh, that is what he's going to do.
That does look like what he's going to do, right?
He's going to
Okay, scatter more
So
seeds.
He's got
Now he's got 5.
And now
That's enough, right?
5 to convoke the phalanx, and he's going to gain a
1,
whole
2,
lot of
3,
life.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
So
And he
is that
gets-
what you're seeing?
That's what I'm saying. And he's going to have a 3/5, which sort of puts the brakes on Alex's attack. Although,
All right, it looks like he's decided to keep the brakes as firmly, because that does leave him just with 1 creature.
yeah, well, the trick here is that he probably has another Scatter the Seeds. We saw Luis's deck.
Which, of course, is an instant.
He has 5 Scatter the Seeds.
He has 5 Scatter the Seeds. Yeah, that is just not realistic. But that's the kind of deck that Luis Scott Vargas can draft. He'll put together some pretty extreme things, and if people are going to pass him 5 of these, he'll take them.
And you can see the 2 in his graveyard are foil, and we tried to find some foil tokens, but...
Yeah, no, not here. Not here.
On Magic Online, those would be premium.
Yeah, those would be
Premium
premium
tokens.
tokens. That's right. They would also deal premium damage.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you were aware of that. Okay, so this is a Sunlance on a Saproling, which looks weird, but I think Alex is testing the waters here to see what do you got. And this does force the issue and means that Luis is only going to have 3 blockers available instead of 5.
Right. Luis what he really wanted to be doing there was to block with the 5 tokens, especially the Takatung Thallid, which once it died would give him another token, and then after blockers were declared, make the Saplings.
Okay, so that didn't work. Well, it worked sort of. I mean, how sad can Luis really be that Alex decided to use a Sunlance on one of his 9 tokens or whatever? It can't be that bad for him.
Right. Although the big risk here is that Luis is now taking 4 damage, going down to 4 life, which looks scary, except we know that he has a Conclave Phalanx in his hand.
Right, and of course, Alex Bianchi being blue-white, he's not going to have any way to punch through that last chunk of damage, right? He's not going to go like Mountain Burn you.
Very unlikely to have direct damage. We have
Right.
seen some things, Mortar Pod, cards like that.
That's a good point. Although with the mana that Alex has, 4 life is still safe for Luis.
Exactly. At
And
least
here
for
we
a while.
go.
I think you'll see the Phalanx this turn, just in
I
case.
think so too. Yeah, I mean, this is the time to do it, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to see like a kite sail or something silly, come down
Right.
and wreck the day here for Luis. Luis is up a game here, but he's in a tough spot because even if he wins, he's not guaranteed top 8. We talked about it at the beginning of the match. He will put himself into a group of players that some of which are going to make the top 8 and a big chunk of which are not. It's going to depend on tiebreakers. Tiebreakers are pretty volatile day 2 here at this GP because of the way that they did it. And it looks like he can actually play a Scion of the Wild here.
Ahead of playing that Phalanx.
That's right. But that's only the beginning of the turn here. And there's Conclave Phalanx. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
10 life.
9, 10.
Fully 10 life. So
Okay.
put a 1 in front of that life total. Luis now safely at 14 and with the 2 biggest creatures on the board suddenly.
One of them being a 10-10.
Yeah. And he's going to go ahead and just use his remaining creatures to convoke out a Rootkin ally. So we saw the Conclave Phalanx there gain life, 2/4 creature. And the Rootkin ally, an interesting card. It's only a 3/3,
This is ridiculous. His deck is insane. Look at this board. He was down to 4 life and getting beaten down with like a Tukatung Thallid.
And suddenly he's at 14.
And now he's at 14. He's got an 11/11. He's got a Rootkin ally that can become massive on its own. And he's going to be swinging in for huge chunks of damage next turn.
Yeah, and there are some cards here that are a little bit dangerous. I think, you can maybe put together a list of cards that would almost kill him this turn, right? If he gives all his creatures +2/+0 on attacks, that's 6 plus the 5 that's already out there. It's 11. A mountain and a lightning bolt. So, Luis, not actually out of the woods yet, but probably unlikely that Alex has exactly those.
Desperate times, though, for Alex Bianchi. Luis Scott Vargas has created such a ridiculously huge board state that he is now completely tapped out on both lands and creatures and just says, come at me. Yeah. No problem. Exactly. I'll just soak up the damage. I'll drop down to 10. I'm not even worried about it at all.
Yeah, he's going to untap.
Randy, you have an update for us?
Aaron Lewis played Artisan of Kozilek to get back his Primeval Titan, then followed up with an Apocalypse Hydra with 22 counters on it. So he managed to win that game 1. Yeah.
Okay, he figured out a way to piece that together.
From there, yeah, you were all totally right about the Ant Queen. He just sat behind the Ant Queen forever, and then Aaron Lewis just has his deck is so insane that. Yeah, awesome game.
All right, thanks, Randy. Yeah, we're caught up in this match here with Alex Bianchi and Luis Scott Vargas, which has just gotten completely out of control at this point for Luis. He's down to 10 again, but here is a key play. It's a Sunlance to take down the Blinding Soul Eater. He can use it in response to keep the Scion of the Wilds out, but
only for this turn.
Only for a turn, and in the meantime,
here comes.
Look at that pile of creatures that Luis just picked up with his hand. It's just ridiculous.
So each of those creatures is effectively +1/+1. They have to be tapped in pairs, but they can pump the Rootkin Ally by tapping in pairs. Each time that he taps 2 of them, Rootkin Ally gets +2/+2. So that's effectively an 11/11 Rootkin Ally. Meanwhile, the Conclave Phalanx also coming in because it might as well. And a chump block basically forced Alex Bianchi.
And a Gnarlid Pack is the follow-up play for Luis.
Because why not? More creatures out there. Alex Bianchi gamely attempting to find some way to get back into this game, but it just looks like...
Look, how many land drops has he missed? 3? 4?
Yes.
It is just too little too late. He's just been outclassed. Now, interestingly here, though, Luis... He just hit his 4th land drop himself. Convoke. That's what outclassed Alex Bianchi's draw. Sometimes it's an affinity way to get your creatures out there cheaper, but Convoke was the key here for Luis. Yep. And look at his board state now.
And if you look at Luis's deck, I talked to him about this deck, and the only card in his deck that costs more than 2 and does not have Convoke is that Scion of the Wild.
Are you kidding me?
And he may have sideboarded something else in, but that was his decision when he built his deck. He said, you know what, I'm going to play 15 lands, and I'm going to invoke out all my spells.
And that's exactly what he's doing, is let him get such a huge advantage over Alex, who is, once again, stuck on mana here, that it looks like Luis is going to be able to pile in with his creatures and just finish off the game. And that's exactly what happens.
Luis gets the 2-0 that he needed.
He needed it. He got the 2-0. You said that second tiebreaker could possibly come up. Smiles from both players, though. Great job by Alex Bianchi. He had a great finish at this tournament as well. And kind of tough luck, honestly, to face Luis in the last round and have him have a great deck. Tough mana issues there for Alex, but he's going to have to settle for a really solid X3 finish here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pro points, money.
It's a lot of winning matches of matches.
Yeah, he had a great weekend. Now, for Luis Scott Vargas fans out there, you're going to have to hang in there. We do not know if he's going to be able to make top 8, even with the 12-2 finish. With such a huge GP, you're not guaranteed. Normally, you would be. I mean, normally, if you made 12-2 at a GP, you're probably in the top 8. Let's jump back over here to Noah Sandler versus Aaron Lewis. We heard it from Randy. Noah decided to sit behind his Ant Queen, which seems like a perfectly good play. By the way, Ant Queen has now arrived as well.
This game.
But the problem was that even though Aaron Lewis was out of gas when we jumped back over to the Luis Scott Vargas and Alex Bianchi match, he had so much great spells just hiding in his library there and not that many lands left in it that he was able to draw, as we said, a 22 Apocalypse Hydra is what he ended up making.
Right. He also cast Artisan of Kozilek and returned his Primeval Titan.
The one that we saw Noah use 2 premium removal spells on as well.
Yep. So Aaron Lewis, though, this game cannot find a green mana. Noah Sandler with a great start. It's that
Wow.
Queen. We're on to game 3.
Yeah, you take a look at Noah there. He he fired off the Ant Queen
Yeah,
and was able to just beat down with it in quick fashion.
And you saw Aaron actually discard there before finally drawing what was actually his 3rd land. He had a bounce land, so he had 4 mana, but it was a black land, not a green land. And all he could do was summon a World Heart Phoenix, which really couldn't stand up to the Ant Queen. Noah also had Necrogenesis in play, which is pretty good against a World Heart Phoenix.
All right, so we're going to get an exciting Game 3 conclusion between these two players. So run it down for us one more time, GCB. So if Aaron Lewis wins,
If Aaron Lewis wins, he will be the 1st seed.
okay,
Going
into the
into
top
top
8,
eight,
no
yep.
problem. What if Noah Sandler wins?
If Noah Sandler wins, Noah Sandler, who has some of the best tiebreakers going into the round, gives himself great chance of being in that at the top of that scrum to go into the top 8.
And what would that mean for Aaron Lewis?
For Aaron Lewis, he would still be in that scrum. He would have exactly 2 losses, but now he's in the scrum. He could miss.
He's at the mercy of his tiebreakers.
He's at the mercy of the fates.
So this is a huge game for both of these players. Aaron Lewis, really important for him. He doesn't want to see the wheels fall off after having gone 13-0. Finishing 13-2, and
Right. I mean,
this is a huge, huge game. And of course, Noah Sandler, a lifelong Magic player. He's been playing for 20 years. And, for the people that know him well, we know what a great limited player he is. He really is an excellent, excellent limited player. And interesting, there's a swamp there. That must be on the splash for the Agony Warp that we saw earlier.
right.
But anyway, a huge accomplishment here for Noah if he can manage to make the top 8 of, one of the biggest GPs ever.
Yeah, I mean, both of these players have shown that they're very, very good and certainly deserving.
Absolutely, and only one can go here.
Now, if Noah does win, Noah also qualifies for the Pro Tour.
That's a great point.
I don't know if Aaron is qualified. He certainly has qualified now.
He is locked on the qualification
Right, so
at this point. He wasn't.
He wasn't.
He was not. So he's got that locked up. So he can breathe a sigh of relief. He's going to be testing with some of the guys from Madison,
right,
Wisconsin, for the Pro Tour. He said he hasn't quite figured it out exactly, but that's what the assumption is.
Yeah,
there's a
Madison,
lot of Magic players in Madison.
Huge Magic hotbed.
Yeah, and they're very good. Noah, on the other hand, though, he's got to win this one and likely put him in the top 8 and also qualify him for the Pro Tour. So tons riding on this match for Noah Sandler. And Aaron Lewis, you got to sympathize with him too, right? The guy was 13-0.
And drafted an incredible deck.
And a great deck here. And he is now facing a potential elimination match, though I will say that's unlikely. And here we go. Primeval Titan
Off the
for
Eldrazi
Aaron
spawn.
Lewis from the Eldrazi spawn. Gets it out a turn sooner.
Yeah, I was going to say both of these players seem to start slow this game, sort of developing their boards, maybe missing some land drops. That Primeval Titan changes the tenor of that completely.
Absolutely. You notice, of course, that Primeval Titan does not say basic land.
Right.
Although he did get one. But he also got an Azorius Chancery, so he's even going to get a little card advantage here off of the Primeval Titan. Return one of these basics to his hand.
Yep.
Wow, his hand looks great, too. He's got Artisan of Kozilek, Skyreach Manta. I think he also has an Etched Oracle there, too.
Yeah.
Wow.
And with Noah applying no real pressure here, that is pretty daunting. Noah, though,
Where's
a handful of spells, but no blue mana, and it looks like a lot of blue cards in his hand. I see a Mana Leak. I see an Agony Warp. Is that a repeal?
That's a repeal on the end there.
Yeah, this is.
This could
painful
be
for
one of
Noah.
those tough mana draws here for Noah, especially given that Aaron is going to start applying huge pressure
Yeah. It looked like
next turn.
It looked like in the first couple of games, Noah was fixing his mana with Karuz. Really, he had a lot of
with the bounce lands there.
Yeah. And there it is once again. 2 cards to get rid of Primeval Titan.
So this time it was Nameless Inversion in Dismember.
Right, and he has to pay 2
God,
mana
and
for
this
Dismember.
is so terrible for Noah. It plays right into Aaron's hands. Now, as it turns out, it's still the right thing to do, right? He needs
Certainly.
to get rid of that thing, but it's just a rough draw because Aaron right now has 2, 4, 6, 8. He's 1 mana away from being able to cast that Artisan.
And he's
got the land in his hand, so Primeval Titan's going to come right back again, get that enters the battlefield trigger again,
Yeah,
too.
Noah, if he had drawn an island, that turn could have at least countered.
Yes. 2,
There it is.
4, 6, 9. And there's Artisan, and that is going to be so tough for Noah Sandler to beat. Here's Primeval Titan,
Yeah,
and now Aaron Lewis is in full gear here. Ever since he played that Titan, the game has started to slip away from Sandler, who's missing that critical blue mana here, and it's just not a fair fight at this point.
No, I mean,
look at these board
the
states.
story of the game here early was both of them are a little shy on mana. One of them hitting the right color of land was going to change the tenor of the game. But Aaron Lewis didn't hit the right color of land. He hit Primeval Titan and got all of his lands and a 6/6. And, you know, I'm not sure what Noah's going to have over there that's going to catch him up. Yeah.
And that's going to do it. Noah Sandler extends the hand, and you can see the disappointment on his face there. Aaron Lewis, he's a pretty calm guy. I'm sure he's excited and relieved. You get a little smile out of him there. I talked to him in between rounds, and I can tell you he was excited. But on camera, he's a little more stoic about it.
Yeah,
but I know he feels a lot of relief. So, again, a tough loss for Noah there. He just couldn't quite get his mana together, and Primeval Titan ran away with it in conjunction with a bunch of powerful spells from his opponent.
That can be a tough moment for someone like Aaron Lewis, too. He is really excited, but he knows how disappointing it is for his opponent, you know? And you play a game with your opponent, you appreciate them, you like them, and you wish them well after the match, but at the end of the day, he just knocked Noah out of a chance to the top 8 and out of the next Pro Tour.
That's right.
So,
yeah, and so it goes.
so
right?
you don't want to express your excitement too loudly.
Yeah.
In front of that
Wait till
man.
you're with your friends.
He'll go out and give his friends a high five. And
All right, so good stuff down here in the feature match here. It looks like we've got one more game to go in the Swiss here. This is Donald Smith at 12-2 and David Jetha at 12-2 as well. They're both heading to game 3, and it looks like Donald's going to take a mulligan. What do their standing situations look like from your perspective here, GCB?
right, so these two are, again, on the X and 2, where whoever wins is going to be in the scrum we've been talking about. But David Jetha came into this round with the best tie breaks of the X and 2. So he has a very good chance, if he can win this, of making it in. He's got the closest thing to a win and in that isn't a certain win and in. Meanwhile, Donald Smith also in that group in very high tie breaks as well, not quite as high. So whichever of these players wins, he's in very good position to make it, especially Jetha.
Another win and in for top 8 here, pretty much. There's potential scenarios that make that not the truth, but I know that these players are assuming that they're going to make the top 8 if they win it, and they're going to play accordingly.
Of course. And, you know, this is also one of those moments. It's a real test for Donald Smith. Here he is, game 3, potentially last round of the tournament certainly the last round of the tournament for one of these guys, and he's got a mulligan. So
this is the one.
Be a real struggle to emotionally
1, 2, 3.
ramp yourself up.
Land.
I see one land.
I saw two
Two
mountains, I think is what he's got, and that's going to be good enough. Mountain go. Passes the turn back, no turn 1 play
says,
for
where's
Jetha.
my island?
And
There
he
it
finds
is.
it right on top, so we're going to get a real game here.
Great.
Thrumming Bird's the first play of the game. It's by Donald Smith. He's the one who's on the play here. He has mulligan to 6, but David Jetha is going to have to discard here, right? He played a bounce land on the draw, and Polaka Worm hits the graveyard here, so Donald's probably happy to not have to deal with that down the line.
I think he was hoping to win before Polaka Worm would be online anyway. That's what David Jetha's thinking. I have to play my spells that stop this aggressive deck. Looks like Donald Smith clearly the aggressor. They played 2 games. They know what the matchup is. Now, you might be thinking, why didn't David Jetha just play another basic land so he wouldn't have to discard? The reason is the come into play tapped effect on those double lands can really set you back, and he wants to make sure that on a turn he's not playing anything else. He plays a land that comes into play tapped.
Wow.
So it's time to untap.
Check out this start for Donald Smith on a mulligan to 6. On the play, he went Thrumming Bird, Cloud Elemental, and he's taken the race to David here.
Yeah, he invalidated David's Cathodian completely by playing Flyers. Cloud Elemental has been really impressive this weekend.
Yeah, it really has. It didn't look that great in the spoiler. I kind of felt like it was in the middle ground somewhere, and it turns out it's actually quite good.
It is quite good. Flying just very good in this format. Now,
that's right.
The neat thing here is Donald's suddenly looking ahead. You saw that mulligan. You saw him missing a color of mana in the hand he kept. Even in these big games, it can be hard for people sometimes to not get upset, to not take gambles and say, look, I'm going to need all 7 cards. It's an important thing, and keep a bad hand. Donald remaining calm, saying,
It's all
I
on
got
the
a
line.
mulligan. It's a big game, but I'm going to mulligan. And so far, so good.
Okay, so Grim Affliction is going to put a couple of -1/-1 counters on the Cloud Elemental, basically nullifying it.
Unless there's an Inner Flame Igniter that can give it a little extra power.
Hey, look at that. turns it into an 0-1 with flying, but the beats still continue in the air with the Thrumming Bird and the Cloud Elemental.
Thrumming Bird, of course, can proliferate when it hits, and Donald hasn't really played any token things. It could proliferate and put a counter on that Cloud Elemental, but that's not how proliferate really works. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to proliferate anything. He can choose anything that has a token on it and put another one on it, or not.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some not. Whoa, but here we go. Grim Affliction number 2 is going to proliferate onto the Cloud Elemental that already had 2 -1/+1 counters, so that's going to die.
Oh,
and then
there's
on top
the
of
flying
it, the
defense.
other one's going to pick up 2 +1/+1 counters, and now Bitter Blossom hits the battlefield, and all of a sudden the tables have turned on Donald Smith, who looked like he had an excellent start and maybe a path to victory all lined up in front of him.
But this now makes a really, really interesting tension in this game. Bitter Blossom is an incredibly powerful card and can take over. It gives him flyers. It gives him all the flyers he needs to stop all these 1 toughness flyers from David Jetha. However, it also does 1 damage to David every turn. He's already taken some damage. He's at 13. He's going to take a little bit more damage right here. The elemental that was just played pumps the elementals that are in play already.
Yeah, the
So-
Incandescent Soul Stoke is
Right.
lord for elementals. They're all going
Right.
to get +1/+1.
And Cloud Elemental, of course, is an elemental. So that Cloud Elemental that was invalidated suddenly is doing a damage. David Jetha takes 2. Then he takes another 1 from the Bitter Blossom. And David Jetha has to think to himself now,
Tick-tock.
yeah, I'm on a clock for my own Bitter Blossom. He can't choose not to make that token every turn. So Bitter Blossom might take over the game, but unless he can kill Donald Smith in time,
This
he's
is a
gonna lose
huge
it.
turn right here. I mean, if he can do something big to sort of shore up the ground game, the Bitter Blossom can take care of the air. Right now, it can profitably block either of the 2 creatures. Well, I should say the Cloud Elemental at least can get in the way.
And Dread Drone, a pretty good start. It can certainly stop a ground attack, but
Yeah, the Incandescent Soul Stoke is no longer going to be a thing here.
ooh, an Awaking Nightmare. He says, discard the cards that are left in your hand.
Wow, that's not one you see very often in this format.
No. Interesting, though. So
2 of 3 cards. Also, interestingly, David knows that those are all 3 spells.
he does because Donald missed a land drop. So
Right.
there's a Wings of Velasvel. I think that's the one that Donald has to choose what card to keep right now. He discards 2, but really what he's thinking is, which one do I keep? The nice thing about the Wings is he can get in a big chunk of damage this turn.
He got
By-
rid of Gorehorn Minotaurs and Wings of
Okay.
Velasvel.
So I thought he might use the Wings as a sort of mini lava axe this turn while there's only 1 flying blocker, so that he could deal a little extra damage and maybe get David Jetha so close to his Bitter Blossom, killing him that is how the game ends.
Okay.
Instead, he's opted to
He's
Shoot
kept
the
a
creature that
He
he
drew a
cast.
Gorehorn Minotaurs for the turn. He can't cast it.
He can cast the other creature in his hand, though, which is another Inner Flame Igniter, it looks like. Okay, so
So
One
Thrumming
more
Bird's going to
damage.
trade off, and you can see what the game plan is here for Donald Smith. He is trying to keep as much pressure on David as possible to help mitigate the Bitter Blossom. Once it gets out of control, he knows that the race can come right back in Donald's face, but if he can keep on his heels, then the Bitter Blossom's going to do part of the work for him every single turn.
Ooh.
What did he draw?
a Mana Leak, which is a really interesting card right now. Donald doesn't have land to do anything. David has a ton of land, but if David plays some small spells, he might be able to catch up. But if he has some big spell to catch up, it's going to get Mana Leaked.
Yeah, he's down to 7 as David Jetha. We've got a really close game here.
And he needs to start attacking. He's not attacking with the Dread Drone, which I think is interesting. Endrexar. That is probably going to hit a Mana Leak. Yep, there it is. So suddenly, Bitter Blossom really starting to tick the clock.
That's right.
Incandescent Soulstoke can't really block the Dread Drone, because if it does, Cloud Elemental suddenly becomes an 0-1. Currently it's a 1-2 because of that Elemental Lord effect in the Soulstoke.
Somehow Donald Smith still hasn't hit his 4th land drop in all of this.
So Donald's saying, okay, I'll trade off this Soulstoke because I'm going to take out, but only if you block with a creature. That is basically your only way to win. You need to start attacking me for 4. David Jetha thinking, I need to get some removal out so I can take out those guys on the ground and hit with this Dread Drone.
Now, if he goes block, then
That's
he
what he's gonna
would
do.
kill both of the creatures on the other side of the table.
Exactly.
And that's what happens here. But David, of course, is left with no board state whatsoever. And there's a Smoke Braider as the follow-up. That's his beatdown plan.
Yeah,
Inner Flame Igniter and Smoke Braider
David
are going to be
Jetha.
the way that he's going to try to win. But you know what he's really doing? Bitter Blossom.
Yeah, he's trying to win with Bitter Blossom.
Yeah, he says, I'm going to be able to sneak through damage, because here's the deal. He's not going to, this game isn't going to go 6 turns and Bitter Blossom kills him, because Bitter Blossom would kill Donald in that time frame. But as long as he can keep those fairies at bay and just keep attacking and attacking, David never gets to mount an offensive.
Well, actually, David can no longer win with just the Bitter Blossom. The Bitter Blossom will kill him first because those fairies come in and they can't attack right away. It's always a turn delay. So, Bitter Blossom puts you at 18 before you put your opponent at 19 if it's just the Bitter Blossom or not.
That's right.
There you go. We're at a trade. Donald Smith happy to trade creatures because he knows that Bitter Blossom's applying pressure. Now, David Jetha could have, a card in his deck that destroys the Bitter Blossom. Right? He could get really low and all of a sudden destroy the Bitter Blossom and put Donald in.
Jeez, and there's some good ones too. Sundering Vitae comes to
Ooh.
mind. Wow, that was a nice
Ashenmore
one.
Gouger.
Ashenmore Gouger is now going to have to be blocked every single turn.
An Elemental Warrior, so the Smoke Raider are able to cast it.
That's right,
That's
and
really
he needed
cool.
it too.
Yep.
He didn't have the mana. Otherwise, 2 copies of Gorehorn Minotaur in hand.
Yeah. Those Gorehorn Minotaurs, unlikely to matter.
No.
This game is all about the Bitter Blossom. Donald pinned him under the Bitter Blossom very cleverly. Found
He
the right
has,
moments
and,
to force the
he's worked
trades.
his. Look at what Donald Smith has done here with 3 mana.
Ooh.
Is that a Drooling Grudion?
Drooling Grudion, a great card. Very, very good at creating fast offense. It can take out a blocker while also pumping a creature.
Yeah, so he can
Suddenly,
pay 4 mana,
yeah,
sack a creature to give a creature -2/-2 end of turn, and a
That's right.
creature +2/+2 until end of turn.
Right. So what you're going to see here is the Gouger's going to get blocked by the Fairy Rogue. Gouger can't block anyway. Oh, Gorehorn Minotaur's coming out. It's only a 3/3.
But he's finally hit his 4th mana. That's kind of the story of that turn.
Right.
Meanwhile, David Jetha has fallen all the way to 3 life, and I can kind of get the feeling.
Wow.
Oh, it's Palaka Worm.
He had a plan. Remember that Palaka Worm he discarded earlier?
Yes.
Perhaps he had 2.
So do you know what that was? That was Forest off the top to be able to cast that Palaka Worm.
That was what he needed.
Did you see how he drew that card with that?
Yep.
Urgency. It's because he needed to get that Palaka Worm out of his hand. Now all of a sudden he's in the driver's seat here, and
certainly
he could
is.
close this game out very quickly. So close for Donald Smith. Could not find his 4th land forever, and now it seems that the tables have fully turned on him. And David Jetha, the one with the higher tiebreakers, he is, there's no locks in Magic, but he is a very high percentage chance to make top 8 with a win here, and he is a couple of turns away from doing that, it looks like.
It certainly does, and that he's got incredible interactions. He's got a 7/7 Trampler against a board of smaller creatures. He's got a Drooling Grudion that can pump his own flyers while also sacrificing tokens. He's going to set up a full wall of defense here because he has enough life now with the Palaka Worm that he doesn't have to worry about it. He's just going to go now with the fairy attack. This turn he's attacking for 4, dropping Donald Smith to 6. Next turn he's going to attack for 5. He can just go ahead and sacrifice the Grudion, and that'll be game. Donald Smith has to find something fast.
And at 8 life for David Jetha, it is so difficult to come up with something that Donald could even find here.
Yeah.
Even a card like Banefire is not going to get it done at this point.
Right.
Yeah, and like you drew it up here, GCB. Donald Smith down to 6.
Oh, and he draws a Dismember, which would have been useful earlier. He could have taken out a Dread Run and gotten in for extra damage.
Now
but
it just kills him.
He can't even cast it.
Yeah, he's past the turn back. David Jetha
David
down to
Jetha.
7.
Will David Jetha go for the kill this turn? I think he will.
I think he should. To sacrifice that Fairy Rogue, right?
Sure, sacrifice the extra rogue token.
Yeah, maybe kill the Smoke Raider or whatever and pump up any of the rogues. And that's game. That will
Donald
do
Smith
it.
trying to figure out if by dismembering that he can survive, but he
can't.
because that would deal 4 to him instead of 3. Wow. What a clutch Forest. You saw him pick up that card.
Looks like Donald Smith wants to go out on his own terms here.
Yep.
He's going to do it. He's going to fall down. And that's it. David Jetha is our winner here. Smiles from both players. Good for them. Donald Smith, though, takes a tough loss in the last round here. A great game. Unfortunately for him, he couldn't find that 3rd mana or that 4th mana for quite a while, and that really sort of caught up to him. While David Jetha eventually took over the game with Bitter Blossom and a Palaka Worm.
After that mulligan and then a tremendous start. Oof. And you have to wonder if maybe that Palaka Worm that got discarded made it look like maybe he didn't have any block worms left in his deck. It's not often you have to cast 2 to win a game, so.
All right, so it looks like we've got some turbo magic set up for you here. This is Cash Turner versus Eduardo Sajgalik. Eduardo lives in England.
Came all the way out here.
Yeah, he's from England. Cash Turner's got a really cool story behind him too. You know, we talked about it, I think, on the stream. There's also going to be a written piece by Mark Calderero about him. You know, his father passed away recently, but he had some really inspiring words for him before that. And, you know, he told him he thought he was going to take down one of these tournaments soon.
Yeah, his father, who's a pool player.
Pool player, right? That's what it was? Yeah.
Yeah.
You can read about that from Mark once that goes up. Really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, so Cash here, like David Jetha, has really, really good tiebreakers and is in that X2 bunch. So if he wins, he has a great chance of making it to the top 8 and continuing that story. Meanwhile, Eduardo, in that group as well, slightly worse tiebreakers. As we've said, those are going to change around a lot this round, so we don't know exactly who's going to end up jumping to the top of that pile. As Eduardo takes a mulligan. Game 2. He's really agonizing about a 6-card hand. He decides to keep it. Rot Farm. It's a great way to get out of a mulligan.
So what are their records here, GCB?
They each have 2 losses, so they're playing winner stays in the scrum.
We stay in the scrum. All right, so win and hope.
Yep.
Yeah, these things are really tough. Wow. That was for 1?
That was a Savage Twister for 1?
Yeah, well, it got rid of the Imp and the random Eldrazi spawn token, too.
And now a nameless inversion of Burst Lightning to wipe the board out. Oh, my God. That's not what you want to see. Have to use a bunch of removal.
Yeah, no mana here for Eduardo.
Yeah, you know, he had those first 3 lane drops like Ogari Rot Farm was great, but now he just can't seem to find any more mana.
And he's forced to just play a Dusk Hunter bat with no Bloodthirst.
Meanwhile,
and I can see where this is going for Cash here. Cash Turner with Ant Queen just going off now, rumbling with the whole team. And oops.
Oh.
We saw a double block, but that was on a 5/5.
Yeah, double block, and the creatures weren't quite big enough to take it down.
Well,
they were.
The burst lightning, but you know what? There's still a response. When you're this far behind on mana, Cash is able to just make a bunch of insects.
Crusher, that was going to be a flawless victory.
And that's going to do it. Cash Turner does pick up the victory here. And good for him. He is going to be in that scrum. We don't know where they're going to end up. We've got a piece of paper here with